Welcome back to Pace Immigration, talking once again with immigration lawyer Andy Semichuk. Andy, last time out we talked about drunk driving convictions and how that can affect your chances of getting across the border if you have that on your criminal record in your past. Let's talk about now about maybe somebody with a drug conviction in their past. How does that impact their life in terms of getting across the border?
All right. Well, with respect to going southbound into the United States, the problem is any drug conviction other than a conviction for marijuana will block you from entry into the United States permanently. In other words, if you've been trafficking or if you've had cocaine or whatever, that's a permanent bar to entry to the United States. You can't get that waived. However, if the offense is just marijuana, possession of marijuana, and it's got to be less than 30 grams of marijuana, in that case you can get a waiver, but you have to apply for a waiver at a port of entry, U.S. port of entry. And it's a procedure. There's a lot of paperwork involved, etc. So if you just show up with a conviction without any waiver at the port of entry, and they see that, it'll pop up on the screen, and they'll say, well, you can't get in here.
You forget it.
You forget it. You have to get a waiver. And then you have to work with a guy like me to pull the paperwork together to get the waiver.
What about coming up to Canada from the United States? Does it work the same way?
It works the same way in the sense that it'll pop up on the screen and you're going to have a problem and you're going to have to apply for what's called a temporary resident permit to come up to Canada. There's no rule about 30 grams or whatever. That's an American rule. So, but the same sort of general intolerance for like drug trafficking, heroin, and so on, those type of offenses exists in Canada as it does in the United States, but you can get a waiver for something like possession of marijuana.
Now, sometimes you see on TV people are advertising for like getting criminal convictions pardoned. Is that pretty much your only hope when it comes to drug conviction? Because it sounds like if you have a drug conviction on your record, no matter how old it is, getting across the border, good luck.
It's true. A pardon in Canada doesn't do much for you going into the United States. The Americans have a criminal database, and if you've been convicted of a drug offense, the fact that you got a pardon in Canada makes no difference. You're not going to get into the United States because of a pardon. So you're fixed if you've got some sort of a conviction related to heroin, cocaine, trafficking, anything of that nature with respect to the United States, you're fixed, meaning you're not going to get in even if you get a pardon. The only way that you could shake loose of something like that would be if you could reopen the conviction through a procedure called collateral attack and somehow shake loose of the conviction. If that were the case, you might be able to get into the United States.
That sounds remote at best.
It does, yeah. It is. And as far as Canada is concerned, the same story goes, or the same situation applies. You're going to have to get this so-called temporary resident permit in order to come to Canada, and getting a pardon isn't going to really help you that very much with respect to drug offenses.
So what's the bottom line then? I mean, just wrapping this up with the last question, but what's the bottom line then? If someone has a drug conviction in their past, no matter how old it is, are they pretty much toast for getting across the border? I mean, what would you tell someone that phoned you saying, look, I want to go to Canada on a vacation, or I want to go to Fort Lauderdale from Toronto on a vacation, but I have a drug conviction from 20 years ago. Are they cooked?
Not necessarily. It depends on what the conviction was and when it happened. So, for example, a juvenile conviction may not bar them from entry. And again, it depends on what drug was involved and so on. It's worth a consultation, but it's not the easiest place to get an immigration benefit. If you've got a criminal conviction for some sort of a drug offense, you're looking at some hard work at best to get in.
Okay, there you go. Andy Semichuk with some more great information there. Be sure to check back often for more immigration news and information. Bye.